the fastest growing event in all of Bike Week is Monday's Vintage Race Day. These motorcycles are as much as 50, sometimes 60 years old, and a few of the racers are even older than that. Now, these connoisseurs of motorcycling history have apparently been scouring the barns and basements of America, because every year the entry list features a new batch of old motorcycles. This paddock area is overflowing, and this year Vintage Day featured a special attraction. BMW has brought together 10 legendary figures from American motorcycle sport. These legends will take part in a unique event, racing a fleet of identical BMW R100R motorcycles. Now, some of the legends may have been having second thoughts about this idea. Others were tickled to death with the idea of taking somebody else's motorcycle out onto the high banks of this famed old speedway. And though the pre-race attitudes among the legends may have varied a bit, BMW and thousands of fans on hand were betting this would be fun for one and all. While a couple of the legends are still active, most have been out of racing for a while. BMW supplied brand new leathers, but fitting them in some cases took a few minutes. Of course, these guys spent most of their lives going through this routine on race morning. It's all very familiar. And note the characteristic BMW attention to detail. Gary Nixon's leathers even carry his trademark star. Sanctioned by the American Historic Racing Motorcycle Association, ARMA, this celebration of two-wheeled nostalgia takes place on a special Vintage Day race course at the famed Daytona International Speedway. Mixed with the echo of historic racing engines will be the distinctive exhaust note of 10 BMW R100Rs, equally prepared by factory technicians for the Battle of the Legends. And riding these machines, 10 the sport's great heroes. Perhaps the greatest dirt tracker of all time and still active, three-time Grand National champ Jay Springsteen was impressed with his Legends ride.
It's pretty fun. They're not the fastest things we've been on before, but hey, they handle real good. You can go down the straightaway right to the tri-oval one-handed. Brakes, everything works real good on them. Nixon dragging the pipes on the thing already. I thought he was going to drag the cylinder. I was behind him, and I could hear something dragging, and I looked, and I could see the cylinder hanging off the side. It looked like it was only about an inch off the ground, but I guess he just dragged the exhaust pipe. But I come in, was laughing at him, and he said, oh, I guess I'm going to have to hang off it more.
And what does the winner of 40 Grand National races expect today?
It'll be a good race. I think we'll just all stay bunched up together and see who can outdraft each other the last lap. You know, that's about it. I mean, all the bikes are so equal. You know, they're really close, equal-wise, speed-wise, everything. I think they run about 120 down the straightaway.
Now here's Jay's counterpart from an earlier era, number 94, George Roeder, who also likes his BMW for a day.
I'm very impressed. I was a little nervous at first, but it handles really well, I think, for the first time on a speedway like that. Real well. I like it.
Roeder's favorite Daytona memories are of the famed old beach course.
I really like this speedway here, but what really brings back memories of the old speedway out in the beach course. The last year they ran it, I got second, and and Brad Andrews won it, and Joel Henry got third, and that was really a sensation. I was awful young and in between those two pros.
Well, a year later, the young kid in the old pros moved to Daytona International Speedway. This was a whole different world. George liked racing here too, but for different reasons.
Back in when the first year they ran it here, of course our old Harleys, we didn't have good road racing tires, you know, and we had them old Pirellis and that, and I used to love them too. I could get sideways. I like that sideways a little bit with those tires.
Well, George had one of the great lines of Vintage Day. He said he didn't get this much attention back when he was racing. One of George's contemporaries is Gary Nixon. In fact, he defeated Roeder by a narrow margin for the 1967 Grand National title. That season also produced Gary's favorite Daytona memory.
You know, it had to be 25 years ago this week. That's when I won the 500 and the 250 class. And I'm running 2 classes today, so I'm going for it to see what happens. Not gonna throw it away, but I'd like to win 2 again after 25 years.
Besides the Battle of the Legends, Nixon is contesting Formula Grand Prix heavyweight and 500 premier classes on the team obsolete G50 matchless. He's taking this whole thing pretty seriously.
Well, I started working out the first of the year. I don't want to come down here and look like a fool, and my daughter and my new little friend Amy, they're helping me out. And so I don't have all the parts in shape yet, but the BMW is feeling really nice. I think I can run that baby a couple hundred miles. They said they'd run about 110, and mine, I looked at the speedometer, and it was at 125, and it was pegged. So baby's running nice, handles really good, got good brakes on it.
Nixon likes the bikes, and the fans like Nixon. Sign those autographs, Red. Now let's check out that motorcycle that's getting the rave reviews from these luminaries of the sport. It's a roadster in the BMW tradition. The R100R mixes technology and classic styling. Note the boxer motor, but with K1 style exhaust. And the instruments are an important touch for some of us traditionalists. We think this is the way motorcycle instruments are supposed to look. And here again, the marriage of technology and tradition. Spoke wheels married to high-tech suspension on both ends, paralever on the rear, and a show of fork up front. BMWs are known as the legendary motorcycles of Europe. The legends of American racing have been invited to Daytona to ride them. In 1972, Don Emde rode a little 350 Yamaha to victory against all the 750s. He didn't hesitate a moment in answering the question of the day. Favorite Daytona memory? What stands out in your mind when you review the history of this place?
Checkered flag, 1972.
Tell me about that day.
Well, that was kind of the end of a long week. You know, it was a private effort, and we really believed that we had a shot at winning the race and had all the right stuff to do it, and had a lot of problems. Crashed the day before, seized early in the race, and all kind of things going wrong, and it all fell together in the last couple of laps, so it was a good feeling.
Emde enjoys another unique distinction. His father won the big race back in '48. They're the only father-son winners in the history of the 200. Floyd's win inspired his son.
It gave me a goal, it gave me a target. I mean, you know, any family, something big happens, people talk about it, you know, and I really got into the event and really, I think, maybe not written down like they tell you at a business school, but as far as just saying, hey, I want to do that, and it really drove me to, you know, doing the things and putting the kind of sponsorships and all the things together to be able to win that race. So it was good, and obviously it was a great thrill for him and my mom.
Emde was just a kid when he won the race. Bart Markel, on the other hand, tried for years and never won it.
Well, I remember one year I led it for quite a long time, and I would have finished up second, but a condenser bracket broke, so I would have had a good chance to finish second that year. I fell off usually.
You fell off? I can't imagine that.
This is true, yeah. When my wife would come to the track, first thing she went was the hospital to see how bad up I was skinned.
Well, Bart may not have been a road racing legend, but he had no equal on the dirt. He won 3 Grand National titles, 28 national races, a record that stood for nearly a decade. And what keeps the Flint, Michigan legend busy these days?
Well, I'm trying to keep the shingles on the house and the doors on the hinges, and I still work at General Motors AC Spark Plug, Flint, Michigan. Been there for 30 years.
Yeah. No plans to head south, huh?
Now, in about 3-4 years, we might move down here, maybe.
Yeah. Whatever skills Markel lacked as a road racer, his Harley-Davidson factory teammate, number 55 Roger Reiman, made up for in spades. Roger won the 200 3 times, once in the rain.
Well, the scariest part was at that point in time, you started in the pit road, and the first lap was all the way around the tri-oval on the outside. And it was just a wide open race, and it's just like going down the interstate behind 2 semi-tractor trailer trucks and running as fast as what you can go because you couldn't see anything. And I had a 5th row start, which didn't help things at all. And I think John Swerkin from Michigan actually won the race for me because in the first corner he knocked Cal Rayburn down, and I think that was the only guy at the end of the day that could have beaten me. So.
Did you go thank John after it was all over?
Well, no, I didn't do that because it took Kelvin 3 years to find out who knocked him down, and I didn't want to see Kelvin swat him one.
Remarkably, Reiman is still active in competitive road racing more than 2 decades after his retirement from the Grand National Wars. The opportunity to come here and ride a BMW is just one more racing reason for Reiman to come to Daytona. 27 years after his last victory in the 200, we wondered what keeps bringing Roger back to the track.
The 55-mile-an-hour speed limit and keeping my driver's license. One thing about the racetrack, you can go out and you can try and go as fast as what you want to. And when I come in, they give me hell for not going fast enough. And I just enjoy it because it keeps me in shape. It gives me an incentive not to sit around and eat a bunch of stuff and get fat and heavy. And it just gives you an incentive to keep yourself in shape.
These legends starred on lots of different motorcycles. Bringing them together was BMW's idea.
We thought it'd be a good idea to get some of the old legends back, some of the guys that were just fantastic in their day, and it gives us a good opportunity as well to highlight and preview our new motorcycle, the R100R. And the two just really came together, and it's worked out terrifically.
Well, indeed, BMW's Battle of the Legends adds a new dimension to the burgeoning sport of vintage road race competition. But twice Grand National champion Dick Mann, a 2-time 200 winner, says things are also booming in other aspects of this retro racing.
On the West Coast, I'm fairly involved in the vintage motocross and trial scene. I haven't road raced since I quit professionally. This is the first time I've been back on a road race track, and probably the first time on a road bike for a very long time too. And but I do ride my motocross bike and the trials bike a couple of times a month, and that segment of the sport is growing just like this. It's of course nothing's as big as Daytona.
Mann won the 200 twice, but remembers best the year he started in the third wave.
And it was probably the only, what I would consider myself a perfect race. I I got into every corner as hard as I could, drug the thing on both sides every turn, braked late every time, never missed a shift, got to the gas check perfect, did everything perfect all day. Naturally I ended up fourth, but to me that was my best ride.
Remembering a day like that is what a day like this is all about. The legends ride again. The 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s come to life here at the track where so many racing memories are born. And some things don't change. Bart Markel's still fighting with the officials.
Where's your gloves, Markel? Huh? Where's your gloves? I don't have them.
And with that nod to authenticity, the legends are ready for practice. But wait a minute, here's a legend who's running late. It's Yvon DuHamel. This active vintage racer riding 3 classes today barely has time to park one bike before he's called out on another. Fortunately, DuHamel has lots of experience on BMWs. Right, Yvon?
Yeah, today, this morning. Yeah, the machine stalled on me and I didn't know where to start it. I had to call the guy, say, where's the key, where's the starter? First time I sit on a machine on a BMW 4 years ago, just sit in the showroom. I never drove one, I never, beautiful machine, very quiet and very nice.
You like it there?
I like it, yeah.
Here at Daytona back in '69, this fiery French-Canadian set 5 AMA speed records, including a new 24-hour mark. But nothing in his own career could equal the thrill of '91 when Yvon's son Miguel won the 50th 200.
When Miguel won last year, I just couldn't believe it. I don't know, it looked like a dream because the year before that, it didn't go very well. Miguel got hurt and I just couldn't believe it. I said, what's happening, I mean, he won the 600 and won the big class, and I had to pinch myself to see if I was awake or what,
And so with Yvon's late arrival, the legends take to the track for practice. And the first of our aging heroes to hit the dirt, why, it's the world's fastest motorcyclist, Bonneville legend, former world land speed record holder Don Vesco, victim of cold tires.
Well, I just figured somebody had to do it. Might as well be me. I get it over with now. So I hadn't sat on the ground here since '64, so it's still hard.
Like we told you, Don, some things don't change. This guy had a lot of success at Daytona, riding and building 250 race bikes.
I won here that FIM race in '63 on the Yamaha 250 over the 500s. That was a good memory. And then when Kel and Cal got one too, I believe that was in 70 or 70, I guess 71, and then Dave Smith won it in 72. They were all good memories. You know, we always had fun when we raced. No matter, I mean, it was serious and it was hectic, and we didn't make a lot of money out of it, but we had a lot of fun doing it, and you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything right now.
That attitude is one thing the legends all share. Sartorial splendor is something else again. Reg Pridmore definitely has the lead in that department. Reg's name is synonymous with BMW. In the mid-'70s, he was a pioneer of the superbike class, racing a Boxer twin against the Japanese fours on the high bank.
Oh, you know, I ran a GP bike here, I think, in '74, and we got that thing really howling. I was running amongst a bunch of big TZ 750s, and I actually made it up, I think, to 13th place. So for me, that was one of the best ones, but I think the big one was the photo finish in '76 with McLaughlin and I. That was a good run. Enjoyed that one. That was pretty good.
Ah, yes, the mindset of a legend. One of the great finishes in Daytona history, and he calls it pretty good. These truly are men of high expectation. And what does Reg think of Battle of the Legends?
I'm glad to see BMW doing this, Dave, but I tell you what, those guys know how to ride just about anything. So don't let them fool you, okay?
You're not going to give them a head start?
No way. No way. I knew I had trouble when I turned up at the hotel room and there was a bottle of Geritol on the bed. So, no, I ain't going to give him any. I'm not going to give him that much.
Well, Pridmore sounds ready for serious competition. How about it, Don Vesco? Is this Battle of the Legends just for fun, or is it serious?
I think it's going to be fun, but I think it's going to get serious, too. I would say, I mean, DuHamel's been a rocket ship. We were over at Talladega Saturday, and he forgot how old he is, and I think he's 17. He claims he's 17. And I don't know, between him and probably Nixon and the other guys goes real good on BMW is Reg Pridmore. So I think those three guys will probably jump out in front of everybody, and then the rest of us can go have at it and back in the plaque somewhere.
Their expectations finely tuned, fortified with Geritol, the legends pull to the line at Daytona. It's time to go racing. On the pole, Dick Bugsy Mann. Seniority must have been the criterion. Markel, Nixon, Springsteen, and Vesco are up there with him, and we're underway. As the field of BMWs storm into turn one, the two number 9s take the lead. Nixon and Springsteen out front, and notice that Roger Reiman was next to last. He's destined not to stay there. Nixon gets a better drive than Springsteen out of the International Horseshoe and takes the lead. Up to third goes DuHamel, and behind him, Reg Pridmore, counting on all that BMW experience. Out on the high banks, DuHamel's diminutive size and drafting expertise give him the lead. And in no time at all, the aerodynamic nuances of Daytona had gathered 5 riders in a dash across the start-finish line. Pridmore won the battle of the brakes going into turn one. And let's give a call to the newcomer in the front-running quintet, number 25. That's Don Emde, who promised he was going to take it easy at first, and did for about a lap. Vesco is now 6th. Reiman has moved from dead last to 7th, and Roeder is running 8th. Now right here, Pridmore hits a seagull, which slows him up enough that Springsteen can drive around the outside and take over the top spot. Even at 100 miles an hour, those street-legal exhausts sneaked up on the birds that traditionally forage the Daytona infield. On a couple of occasions, Springsteen and DuHamel, each picked as potential hard chargers by their rivals here today, hooked up and tried to get away. And each time, one or the other would become impatient and try to pass, violating the cardinal rule at Daytona: stay in line, use the draft for speed. They'd slow each other down, and the rest of the field would catch up. Another seagull dodged a bullet as DuHamel took the lead back from Springsteen, but notice that Pridmore and Nixon are now right on their rear wheels, and Reiman has moved into 5th spot. Remember that he came from the back of the grid. DuHamel ran wide on exit of the International Horseshoe. Look how Springsteen shoots by on the inside. Pridmore not able to complete the path. Question, is DuHamel playing with him, or is he really running flat out? Nixon's right there now, looking for the answer. If you're familiar with Daytona, you'll note that this is a modified short course that takes them up onto the high banking just inside turn 2 of the stock car oval. Thus, the run down the backstretch is not quite as long, but the bikes are still capable of top speed through the east banking and in the run down to the start-finish line. And the leader this time by, check it out, Roger Reiman, white boots and all, has come from last place to first. And while they battle 5 wide up front, Dick Mann enjoys a leisurely ride, savoring 20-year-old Daytona memories. As the laps begin to wind down, Springsteen tries a different strategy. Forget the draft, make the breakaway. He uses a great run off the International Horseshoe to try to get away, but Pridmore, crafty in second spot and knowing he has DuHamel to draft with, just reels him right back in. In fact, Reg took the lead and DuHamel took a shortcut. Watch Yvon come down off the banking and actually gain ground using the safety apron in an effort to find a shorter way to the checkered flag. But as they hit the white flag, 1 lap to go, it was Reiman and Springsteen side by side. Pridmore out the outside to take over the lead going into the last lap. Roeder was this far behind, running in 7th spot, as the 5-rider duel charged through the infield for the final time. It had become apparent that the man with the best drafting strategy on the last lap was destined to win the race. Out of the chicane, Pridmore had the lead, then Springsteen, then DuHamel, and then the amazing finish. Around the outside, 4 wide, goes Gary Nixon. And as they hit the checkered flag, he's drafted by the pack to win again at Daytona. DuHamel, Springsteen, Reiman, and Pridmore round out the top 5. Emde, Roeder, Vesco, Mann, and Markel the top 10. There was a huge grin under every helmet as these 10 legends rode back to the BMW compound. The first guy who could stop laughing long enough to talk was Reiman.
Were you having some fun out there?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was having 11. I don't know about the rest of them guys.
Hey, they're right with you, Roger. And how about that finish?
Springer, what'd Nixon do to you out there anyway?
He outsmarted us, I guess. I figured Pridmore was ahead of me, and I figured on my weight distribution difference, I could get by him going down the straightaway, and I pulled out. And then there was like 4 of us, and Nixon had to draft off all 4 of us, and he just, wow, right by us. And then he pulled right in front of us all, and there was nothing we could do.
Bad enough that he humiliated these guys, but Nixon had another surprise for the second race.
I'm saving that turn 2 horseshoe to the last race. I know I can get them going in there, but I don't want to use it up now.
Others had also conjured secret strategies for race 2 and weren't about to talk about it.
I have one, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you after, because if I tell you now, you're going to go and tell Nixon and all these guys, and it might not work.
Yvon, I would never, ever do that to you. I will tell you this, though, folks. DuHamel was brilliant at Daytona. He won 2 classes on the ex-Dick Mann BSA Rocket 3, and the battle he had here with Alan Cathcart in the Formula 750 race, Cathcart on a Ducati, was nothing short of sensational. Yvon won it with a front straightaway move on the last lap. And while DuHamel was busy racing, his fellow legends were bench racing.
Yeah, we've been doing that too. Brother Bart, I'll call Bart Markel, him and me good friends. He brings back memories. You know, he always was trying something different. He had that brake. He took his front wheel brake, moved on the left-hand side, because he said he always wants to keep that throttle in his hand. And I did that one time, and I fell right in my nose doing that. So I don't use everybody's tricks.
Markel's road racing was one of the primary topics of conversation. I wondered if Bart actually liked the pavement.
I liked it, yeah. I never got very good at it, but I could run with the real good guys, but I was over my head, and I fell off a lot.
I can't hardly believe that, Bart. DuHamel said there was an impediment to his bench racing besides his busy schedule.
Yeah, we have to yell a lot because the hearing is a little bit gone, but yeah, some memory, we remember some things. And sometimes they don't, and I do, you know, depends. But yeah, it's less a pleasure to be with Gary Nixon, Dick Mann, and all the other.
Everybody always tells the truth, right?
Well, it looks sometimes like they lie a little bit, but maybe they don't do it by purpose, you know.
I'm sure they don't, Yvon. Fueled by that world-class bench racing, vintage racing is growing by leaps and bounds.
One thing I do know is it's so neat to find these guys restoring old bikes that were just kind of parked out in old garage, you know, outside, rusting away, and now guys are fixing them up, and they'll outlive all of us now, these machines. I mean, that's what's neat. I think at least a lot of the machines are going to be around for a while. Whether it continues to grow, I mean, I think it will, because, you know, they feel that the guys that rode like a bike in high school, and they're coming back trying to find those things, and that's where the popularity is. If you look at where the sales trends were, that's all out ahead of us yet. Some of the Japanese years, you know, the Hondas, the Yamahas. So I think it'll get bigger before it gets smaller.
While Emde has started a new magazine focusing on bike restoration, former world motocross champ Jeff Smith has his hands full with the growth of ARMA.
There are many, many people, and we saw it today, who want to be a part of it, who want to relive parts of the past that were, maybe we view them with rose-tinted glasses, but it's a time we like to look back on and say it was a simpler, more happy time.
Well, today the stars of those simpler, happier times are back on the track at Daytona for the BMW Battle of the Legends, Round 2. This time, the whole shot belongs to the man who sat on the outside pole. It's number 163, Reg Pridmore, who won the drag race to turn number 1. Reiman tucked into that second spot, and Roeder was a little more aggressive off the start, capturing third. Springsteen took that away from him in a hurry. DuHamel and Nixon were both in the back and having to play a bit of catch-up. Would this be the time that Pridmore would use his superior BMW experience to simply pull away from the field? We get a pretty quick indication of whether or not it's going to work out that way for old Rego. Check out the unusual line through the chicane as he comes in with a big lead, bends it to the right again, and then nearly bends it into a pretzel. Watch him lose the front end. Great save by Pridmore as he takes it through the grass. We'll take another look at an excellent performance by an experienced rider, exceeding the limit of traction, but then correcting for his mistake rather than paying for it. Reg exits through the grass, and the lesson is don't panic and don't stop steering. After the excitement of race 1, race 2 had a hard act to follow, but here you see 3 riders in the lead draft, and that became quickly 4 riders as Springsteen, DuHamel, Reiman, and Pridmore hooked up. They cut a big hole through the wind, and darting into that hole to make it a 5-rider battle was number 9, Gary Nixon. Again, they began to pull away from the field. Springsteen with the black plate number 9 tucking on to the rear wheel of DuHamel in a replay of much of that Heat Race 1 battle. But we had the feeling throughout that perhaps the racing had become a little more serious. Perhaps DuHamel was determined not to get tricked again in the late laps. He led most of the competition with Springsteen chasing him from behind. Keep in mind that the combined score from both races would determine the overall winner. Now, this gathering of legends on BMW motorcycles also prompted big gatherings of BMW riders from not only all across America, but all around the world. For example, the Space Coast chapter of the BMW Riders hosted a ride and a campground in conjunction with this event. They had a couple of thousand people from as far away as Australia who came here to watch the likes of DuHamel and Springsteen, Reiman, and Pridmore doing battle on their R100Rs at the venue known as the birthplace of speed. For DuHamel, who I guarantee you would accept in a moment the opportunity to ride another Daytona 200, any kind of a motorcycle race is enough to get his French-Canadian blood boiling. He simply would not allow Springsteen to catch up. But Jay is a graduate of the Camel Pro Dirt Track Wars, where 5 and 6 wide racing on the mile is the tradition. And so each lap, he ran it in a little deeper into turn 1, a little harder on the brakes. Bit by bit, he ate away at DuHamel's advantage. And then perhaps Yvon heard him coming. In any case, there was a clear change of strategy as the pair worked through the infield with just a couple of laps to go. Watch DuHamel. Takes a great exit off the corner, but then doesn't bother to tuck in. Looks back over his shoulder, says, "Come on, kid, catch me if you can." And I guarantee you, that gets under Springsteen's skin just a little bit. As a matter of fact, he took the lead from DuHamel, but it was only temporary. Watch Yvon get a tremendous drive out of the chicane and literally pull himself around Springsteen as they head up onto the high banks at flank speed. They come from different countries, they come from totally different heritages, but they have a great deal in common. Yvon DuHamel and Jay Springsteen swapping the lead full throttle at Daytona International Speedway. The two had broken away as they headed into the final lap. Clearly, DuHamel had dominated throughout, but had Springsteen perhaps saved his own secret strategy for the last run to the checkered flag? Well, if he had a strategy, he didn't get to use it. Perhaps it was because Yvon never won the Daytona 200, or maybe it was just his determination to make a clean sweep, winning all his classes in this combination Vintage Day and BMW Battle of the Legends. In any event, Yvon maintained his interval as they went through the infield for the final time. Pridmore and Reiman had long since conceded. They were racing for third. Last trip through the chicane, DuHamel extends the advantage. Springsteen, too, has surrendered. And so as they come to the checkered flag, wrapping up the Battle of the Legends at Daytona, it is Yvon DuHamel who takes the top honors. A little French-Canadian who combines a second-place finish in the first leg with a checkered flag stretch run in leg number 2 to win the overall crown. Springsteen, 3 bike lengths back, takes second. Nixon, Reiman, and Pridmore are the top 5. And rounding out the top 10, Emde, Vesco, Roeder, Markel, and Mann. And now at last, we find out the mystery strategy. All right, Yvon, you wouldn't tell us the secret until the race was over. Now the race is over and you've won. What was the secret?
Oh, I asked BMW to put 20 more horsepower. So they put more horsepower in the bike. So I was, had like 20 miles an hour on everybody. So that's why I won.
I don't think anybody's going to believe that. Springsteen, the young kid, said he was running as hard as he could run and he couldn't catch you. He was frustrated.
Yeah, no, well, I think he's too young to win. You see, he had to let the old man win. So, yeah, he ride pretty good, and the bike was running good. The bike was running good, and did a good race.
Hey, he always makes a good race. That's why so many people want Yvon to ride their vintage iron. And if somebody has an extra bike for the 200, well,
they asked me to ride bikes, and as many bike how many bike they want to give me, I gonna ride. I like to ride, So I rode 4 times and Saturday 2 times at Talladega. So and then during the week I'm gonna ride at Harley 883. So if somebody else want to give me a ride, maybe a big bike, maybe I go.
Well, clearly the competitive fires still burn. But the race results are less important here than the celebration of competition.
It was a lot of fun, really. I mean, all the bikes were equal. It was great riding with all these other guys that I ain't really raced with before, It was a lot of fun. I just hope we can do it again.
Yeah, I think it's great that BMW and Speedway brought this all together, because of that, and just because of, I guess there are people out there who enjoy watching us ride around. I hope we put on a good show and they bring us back.
Oh, I think the whole thing, everybody comes away saying, hey, that was great and excited and it was fun and everything, and that's what maybe we lost a couple years back. Now people are having some fun. People will talk about this, and more people will come next year, I'm sure of that.
Well, these guys still have a twist in their wrist and a spring in their step. But what's next for the Legends of Daytona?
Clearly, the next step from this type of an event is to bring John Surtees and Agostini and Jeff Duke and some of the other wonderful international stars of years ago to compete with the North American stars.
And might BMW make this an annual affair?
We're talking about it. This is really beyond our expectations. It's really been a terrific success, and we are giving it some real serious thought for future years as well. It's been great.
And so hours after the checkered flag fell, but not long after the last autograph was signed, the legends of Daytona who have come here to battle on their BMWs pose for a final souvenir photograph. It has been an interesting, a fascinating, indeed I think an important day here in the history of Daytona, because BMW have brought to this vintage race a new dimension and made it the biggest and most successful ever.
Our congratulations to Yvon DuHamel and all of the legends. I'm Dave Despain. So long from Daytona.